right, we're going to get started. Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I want to welcome our students that are here, our parents, guardians, and our families, and any staff members that are here as well. I'm April Umich. I'm the administrator for school counseling. I'm going to be your moderator for this evening, and I'd like to welcome you to Junior College Planning Night. If you're joining us in person or via our district's live stream YouTube, we're delighted to have you. And tonight's going to be a great night to support your students and your families in navigating that college search process and college admissions 101. In addition to our live stream, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to be recording tonight's event, and it'll be posted on the district's news YouTube channel, and we'll send out a link thereafter for that as well. Before I begin, I would like to thank Superintendent Tona, the Board of Education, Principal Kevins for giving us this opportunity to meet tonight. Additionally, I'd like to thank our counseling department for their hard work and support on behalf of our students. We have a great evening planned for you tonight, and it promises to be both informative and insightful. It's going to last, I would expect, about 90 minutes. Our agenda will begin with a presentation from our high school counseling department. We're also honored to welcome tonight college admissions representatives from Binghamton University, Western Connecticut State University, Iona University, and Westchester Community College, who are experts in the field of college admissions. And after our counseling department does the presentation, we're going to have our roundtable discussion with our college admission reps, where we're going to pose some questions to them and get our experts' opinions on some very important topics to get the discussion started. And then we're going to close out the evening with the forum for questions that you may have to our college reps and also to our counseling team. So as we embark on this evening's presentation, please keep an open mind, think about some good questions, and engage in meaningful conversations. And we hope tonight you will leave with a much clearer understanding of your next steps for the college search process, application admissions, and a renewed sense of confidence in your path forward. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our college admissions reps and our school counseling department who are here tonight. Let's start with our reps. First, I'd like to welcome Amina Alam, Adjunct Admissions Counselor, Office of Admissions at Westchester Community College.
Hi.
We also, go ahead, Amina.
Hi everyone, welcome. I'm here from SUNY Westchester Community College. Any questions you have in regards to our programs, all of our campuses, all of our locations. We have online classes, evening classes. We have a lot of flexibility. Any questions you may have, I'm here to address them in the end. I'll be available.
Thank you, Amina. We have Joseph Tiesi, Associate Director, Undergraduate Admissions at Binghamton University.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. Thank you for your hospitality tonight. So we're thrilled to be with you. We know what this is all about. We're just like to be able to start your search and what that means. So we're here to help tonight.
Great. Luis Santiago, Director of Admissions, Western Connecticut State University.
Hey everyone, looking forward to tonight.
And last but not least, Ryan Depew, Executive Director of Undergraduate Admissions, Enrollment Management at Iona University.
Ditto.
Thank you, Ryan. All right, I'd also like to introduce our counseling department. We have Mariana Callaghy, Terry Lockman, Trina Capone, Anna Boyle, Jackie Mittman, Julie Cummins, and last but not least, Mr. Peter Vano. And I think at this point, I'm going to turn over our program to our counseling department, who are going to talk to you a little bit about College 101 and some things you need to know to get yourself started. Mrs. Callaghy, right?
Hi, everybody. I'm going to talk a little bit about Naviance, and I'd like to see a show of hands, parents and students. How many of you know the word Naviance? Have you heard it? Have you used it? Have you seen it? Beautiful. Naviance is a instrument that is a subscription that MAPAC subscribes to. All of our students have access to Naviance. All of our students start using it actively in middle school and throughout high school. What we like to use Naviance for is to spark discussion. And we start in 9th grade, and we go forward with the Strengths Explorer, and we go ahead in 10th grade, and we talk about a personality survey. And both of those assessments in Naviance lead to career pathways that we like to get the thoughts, the discussions, the conversations geared towards what might I like to do when I am done with high school. And then that inevitably leads to us doing a lot of research in Naviance when it comes to junior year, and that's where we are now. So what can we do in Naviance? You can, students can all access Naviance easily through their Gmail, through the waffle. There's an icon at the bottom of all the icons. Naviance, I think, is the second to last from the bottom row. And when you get into Naviance, you get to the home page. There is a welcome message for the class of 2026. Yes, that is you guys, class of 2026. And the welcome message helps to prioritize what you should be working on now, what you should be working on a little bit later. All of the links are active in the welcome message, so feel free to use that as a resource. If you haven't had a chance to schedule your junior conference yet, you can go into Naviance and get a sneak peek at what we'll be doing with you. Okay? There are things that you can do with the college search. Once you identify some colleges you might want to visit, might want to learn a little bit more about, you can actually build your target list of colleges I'm thinking about. And the way I like to describe that is that's like your Amazon cart of colleges. Just put a whole bunch of colleges in there, right? Cast a wide net, big, small, visit the schools, get used to them. We'll talk about that in a little bit more detail, but Naviance is a great resource for everyone. Students have a lot more access in their account, so parents, we recommend that you look over their shoulder or get on through their Gmail account, and you'll see what your child sees, and it's much more comprehensive. So this is just a taste of what you can do with Naviance. Naviance has a history of data collected in there that once you have a list of colleges that you might want to do a little more research on, you can actually compare them to your own GPA. And once you have an SAT or an ACT score, if you choose to take one, then you can even compare what prior students from AAPAC, whether they got in or didn't get in, as compared to your current GPA or SAT or ACT score. And we've got data in Naviance collected from 2005. It's when we started collecting the information. So it's a start. Naviance is a great starting point that you can continue using throughout high school and past senior year. You can even, past junior year, you can even look at Naviance for scholarships when you're ready to apply for them in senior year. So it's a great resource. We encourage you to use it. Even if you haven't had a chance to meet with your counselor yet for junior conference, get in there and start digging around. It's a great resource. So now we'll go to Ms. Lockman for our next slide. Can we do it?
I swear it works.
Ooh, thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Okay. All right. So I'm Mrs. Lockman. I'm in the same boat as you because I also have a junior, doesn't go to this school. So I am with you on this. Finding my best fit, what does that mean? There's over 6,000 colleges. So the idea is to find your child and your child to find their best fit. What is the best fit for them? And really the idea is to narrow that list down from 6,000 colleges to we recommend to between 6 to 10 colleges the most, because in reality, they're only going to go to one school, right? So sometimes students will have like 20 colleges on their list. I'm like, okay, let's see how we can get that list narrowed down even more. So how you do that is there's certain criteria on this list that we can talk about. So one of them being location. Does your student want a certain climate? Does your child want a rural location, a city location, more suburbs? So that's the way to narrow it down. Housing, this is a big one. I know it's not didn't make it to the list, but housing is a big one. A lot of colleges, some colleges offer housing for at least the first 2 years, but what we're finding with some of the colleges is that they're only guaranteeing housing for the first year, and then they're saying, move off campus the second year. So definitely ask that question, because if, it's an investment, right? And if you think that your child's going to live there for all, 3 years, you want them to live there, and they're not, it's just a good question to ask, because that's changed a lot. The size of the school. You know, do they want something small like Mayapack where they know all the kids in the class and it's a small class size, or are they okay with being in a class of 300 students and they feel like they can still learn in that same way? Academic rigor, the supports, if they want something more challenging or feel that they might need more support, such as if they have a learning disability and they feel like they need more support, a lot of colleges will offer comprehensive support centers. Usually it's an extra fee, but you can definitely ask if they have that and if that's a factor. Cost is a factor, and that, I always say, comes down to a family decision in the end, and doing that research, right? Finding out the cost, the tuition, the housing, and what they like to call, because I'm doing the research too, I'm with you, like I said, the fees, right? Find out what's entailed in these fees that I'm paying, what makes up for that. Athletics, activities, we know a lot of students go to college and want to play a certain sport, whether it be Division I, Division II, or Division III, and we'll talk about that later. Any special programs like internships, honors programs, and I mentioned the support for students with disabilities. Another question that you can ask is about the retention and graduation rate. I know a lot of colleges don't like this question, but you can ask, how many students graduate from this college in 4 years, right? So that's a good thing to ask. And then what you all invest your time and money into the job placement services. What do they have as far as what's their job placement rate? How do they place students in jobs? You can ask also, that's not on the list, about the acceptance rate, just to kind of see what that is and where your child falls. And then if your child's interested or not interested in Greek life. Some students have said they absolutely want to be a part of Greek life. That's what they want to do. There's houses that they have, and some students are like, nope, that's not for me. I don't want to be in Greek life. So this really, it's trying to narrow it down. And, you know, I've had students mention a college because they saw it on TikTok. Like, that's not maybe how you want to find your best fit, is the advertisements on TikTok. So we know that college is a big investment. We're here to support you. We're here to help along the way. And if you haven't done so, just with me or any of my colleagues, you can schedule a junior conference and we'll go more into detail with you and your child about their individual needs and goals. Okay? So we will move on to the next slide. Yep. Oh, no.
Go forward.
Go.
I
To the
did
right.
when I went the other way.
Sorry.
We're not good with technology.
Yeah. No, go back. Okay. Yeah, you're good. Good.
Sorry about that. So, like Ms. Lockman said, we recommend that you apply to anywhere between 6 to 10 colleges. One of the hardest parts, I think, of our job is that we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know, we can't guarantee that you're going to definitely get into this college or not get into that college. So we like to tell people to make sure to diversify their list, right? Don't apply to all these really, really challenging schools, and also don't just apply to schools that you know is a definite in, right? We think that you should mix up what types of schools you should apply to. So we say there's some likely schools, some target schools, and some reach schools. And it's kind of exactly what it sounds like, right? Target schools are schools that match your grade point average, right? Likely schools are if you have a certain GPA, it exceeds what the college is typically looking for. And then reaches, your GPA is maybe a little bit under what the college is typically looking for. And it's important to apply to all three, right? One thing I think is super important to mention, a safety school or a likely school shouldn't just be a school that you're like, I could get into this school. You should want to go to all of the schools that you're applying to, the reaches, the targets, and the safeties. Because if it comes down to it, and you get into your safety school, you're going to want to go there, right? So that's it for me.
Okay, so the college visit is one of the most, the college visit is one of the most critical pieces of this process. I cannot stress this enough. If possible, go visit schools. It is the best way to experience the atmosphere of what a day in life of campus is. The college visit is a great opportunity for you to see different facilities. You're able to see the dining hall, the dorms, the library. There's everything on the campus you're able to see, so it's really important. A college visit also allows you to meet faculty and staff, and you can ask questions. A college visit also allows you to talk to students. Typically, a visit will be led by a student, so if you come prepared with questions, definitely important for the students that are here. You can talk to them and ask questions and find out, hey, what's it really like? A college visit also allows you to see what the surrounding areas are like outside of campus, right? That's really important. If you're going to be spending 2-4 years at a school, you want to know what it's like when you step foot off of campus. Is it safe? Is there things to do? Is it a fit for you? Do you like what it's like in the surrounding areas? And a college visit also allows you to confirm, is this a fit? And are my priorities being met, and have my priorities changed? As you move through this process, it's a dynamic process. In the beginning, you might say, hey, these are my criteria, this is what I'm looking for and I have to have in the school, but as you go to see schools, things might change. So it's really important that you go and see the schools. And visiting schools also shows demonstrated interest, right? That's critical. If you talk to any of the reps here, I'm sure they can attest. One of the first things reps usually say is, hey, have you come and seen our school, right? You're going to want to show that demonstrated interest throughout the process, and that's one of the critical pieces is actually going to see a school. At a minimum, if you cannot go see a school, because it's not always possible, especially depending on where it is geographically, take a virtual tour. Most colleges have videos right on their website where you're able to see the schools and what it's like on campus, or usually college YouTube channels will have videos as well. And lastly, just as a little point, if you are undecided, right, and as you move through this process, you continue to be undecided, when you go to see schools, ask, hey, how do you support students that are undecided? Because some schools do a better job than others. It's really important to keep that in mind. Okay, so college fairs. This is another great opportunity for you to network, ask questions, talk to reps. So in the fall, starting in September all the way through the holidays, we have college mini fairs on Tuesdays and Thursdays where we have reps come in, and it's usually during lunch period, so it's a great opportunity, and that's another way for you to show demonstrated interest in the process, right? These are your local reps that'll be there, so if they can put a face to a name, I think it really does help in the process, because sometimes they're even in the rooms, they're the ones that are advocating for you on your behalf. So if they can meet you, if you can ask questions, it's just great, and you're able to learn more about the school. And reps love talking to students, right? They don't really want to talk to us, they want to talk to you guys. And lastly, college fairs. So the big college fairs, there's 2 coming up in the spring. One is on April 29th at the Westchester County Center, and then on the following night, it is at the BOCES, PNW BOCES. So one thing to note, though, is during the day, we are going to be taking a field trip. So this is only for juniors, but if you want to go during the school day, it will be a field trip.
I have the pleasure of doing the slide on SAT and ACT, everyone's favorite thing about the college application. Okay? So the SAT and ACT are standardized tests that colleges will use to supplement the transcript and the rest of the application. Okay? The SAT and ACT are interchangeable. It's like Coke and Pepsi, doesn't matter which one. The ACT does have a science section, which is now optional. Okay? Over the years, they've gotten more and more similar. Okay? Most colleges, since COVID, have gone test optional. And what that means is you can choose to send an SAT score or not. If you are not sending an SAT score, the colleges will not hold that against you. Okay? So there really isn't a downside to trying an SAT or ACT. Okay? When you're doing your college search, as we discussed before, you want to check with the college to find out if they're test optional. It's usually when you go on admissions, it's one of the things that come up right up front. The one thing you want to make sure of is to make sure that you check for particular majors. Some colleges will be test optional, but they may require the SAT if you're an education major or an engineering major, right? That's why going to the website is a good start. If you look on the slide here, fairtest.org is a link that you can click to that will give you a list of all the colleges who are test optional. Okay? As a side note, most colleges in Florida require a standardized test. Okay? That's something to keep in mind. As a department, we recommend that students try either an SAT or ACT once. Okay? Again, if they don't like their score, they don't have to send it. Okay? A student can take the SAT or ACT multiple times. There's usually one offered every month of the year. Okay? We recommend no more than 2 to 3 times. It starts to get a little crazy then. Colleges will do what's called the super score. They will take the highest score from each section and make that the score. Okay? So if they do want to take it more than once and send their scores in, they'll do that. We recommend that most students take the SAT in the spring of their junior year. Most juniors are in some form of advanced algebra or algebra 2, which is on the test, okay? If your student accelerated in math, they could take it a year early, but junior year is usually enough because they'll have either May, June, there's an administration over the summer, and then there's one in September, October, November, and December every month, okay? Test dates run, like I said, every month, and they're online, both the SAT and ACT. Okay? If a student does take an SAT or ACT and they want to submit their scores, they have to go to the actual website of the SAT or ACT and submit them online. As a school, we don't report SAT scores.
Okay, so just real quick on NCAA, if students are interested in playing Division I or Division II athletics in college, they have to register with the NCAA clearinghouse, all right? And, you know, before a student is invited on official visits by coaches, before they sign a letter of intent to play at a certain college, and before they receive or have a chance to receive an athletic scholarship, they have to be registered with the eligibility center, okay? And the way to register is through this website, the eligibility center. And Division I and Division II require 16 core courses. And the way to check for which courses are MAEPAC approved would be right on the Eligibility Center's website. We also have them, I think this is a link down at the bottom for our approved courses. As soon as students know that they have an idea if they want to play a sport in college, they should notify their school counselor so that we can review their transcript, make sure they have the 16 core courses that they'll need, and plan ahead, right? So, okay, so you're thinking about D1 or D2, let's talk about some courses you may want to take. Division III is different. There's no registering with NCAA Clearinghouse. In fact, colleges can talk to students a lot earlier than D1 and D2. But it's just important for students to register by the end of junior year. We recommend a lot earlier. So, you know, if possible, by the beginning of sophomore year, but no later than the end of junior year.
All right. So, I know that all of you are going to hear a lot of information tonight. You've already heard a lot of information. The biggest takeaway from all of this when you leave here tonight is to know that you are in no way alone through this process. We are here to help you every step of the way. So even if you're trying to write down everything from the presentation or just a little bit overwhelmed with everything that we've already discussed, do not be. We are here to help you. We will reiterate when we meet in a junior conference, we go over this again. So don't worry, we will walk you through even into senior year. If your child has questions, we will help them every step of the way. We meet with them again in senior year. We make sure that they're ready to hit the ground running with their applications. So we take care of you, do not worry. So that's the one thing I definitely want you to walk away knowing tonight. The next thing that you really need to do is start scheduling that junior conference. You're not behind, don't worry, we just started them. So if you have not scheduled a junior conference yet, your child can either go to the office and make an appointment with one of our secretaries, you can call or email the office, and we're happy to get one set up with you. We encourage parents to be a part of the process with the junior conference, so you can either come in person. If you're working and you can't make it in person, we can always set up a Google Meet and you can join virtually. So we are very accommodating to have you a part of the process because it's very important. The junior conference, we're really going to talk specifically about your child's needs, what they're looking for in a college, and we go over all of these things again. We go over the college essay, we talk about recommendation letters and what's needed for all of that. And any questions after the meeting, you and your child are always welcome to ask us as many questions as you need. And again, we're here to help you through that entire process. So we just hopefully want to just make you feel a little bit more comfortable with all of that. Because I know it's a lot of information, whether it's your first time going through it or if you've been through this before. Every child's different and every child has something different that they're looking for as they're planning to go off to college. And the last thing that I just wanted to mention is we have a junior senior information website. So you can get to this website right on our counseling website. So you can click on and it's right there. Or if you log into Naviance, Ms. Callaghy put it right on the welcome page. So you can click right there and there's so much information on there for upcoming events, anything that juniors and seniors need to know. So check out the website. There's a lot of good information on there, so we definitely encourage that you go onto that website as well. All right, and without further ado, I'll pass it back off to Ms. Umich.
All right, thank you, counselors. So now we're at the part of the evening where we get to really speak with our college reps who are the experts here in their own departments, in their own schools. And we're going to kick off the evening. Thank you, counselors. That was wonderful, by the way. Really appreciate that. I'm going to start with our first question to the panel. Each of our college reps comes from a different environment. We have SUNY, we also have a public from Connecticut, and we have private and community college, so we've got lots of different perspectives. So we'll begin with the first question for the panel. How can students determine if a college is a good fit for them academically, socially, and personally? Let you guys jump in.
Okay. Well, I'm on this side. I'll start off. And first of all, I just want to say thank you for inviting us. This is a big deal. I've been in the world of college admissions for a very long time. And not every high school does this. This is a community that really cares about you and a team that really cares about you. And that's impressive. So we say thank you. And you guys are in a really good place to start off. So my experience has been, I'll go back to the slide that Peter put up a little while ago, and he talks about the college visit and how important that is. And during COVID, I have no idea how those students chose the right fit. I think we're fortunate to have the ability for you to come on our campus and engage with who we are as a culture and who we are as a community. Very simple, really. You just go to the website, you click on, and you schedule a campus tour. There's a couple of things. It's a tour, or be a type of things that are called open houses. Those are just a little bit different than a tour. The open houses are full-on days. You get to spend a full day immersed into who they are as an institution, talking with faculty and talking with students and going into residential lives. I think the best way to get to know whether a campus is the best fit for you is to actually go there and visit. Now, every campus has got a library and buildings and residential halls and books, and that's fine. Those are buildings. Those are not who we are as a culture and as a community. That's passed on through the stories, and I love our tour guides. They're fantastic. I don't know if there's anyone taking a college tour. Fantastic. You feel the energy, you feel the pride, and that's good. It's about hearing the stories. Even beyond the campus tour, beyond the tour guide, I would say I love it when our guests stay for a while. And they go after the tour, and they go into the student union, or into the bookstore, the food court, or places where actual college students are, and they're hanging out. And you feel the energy, and it's real and it's authentic. They're not shy. Don't be afraid. Go up to them and just start talking with them and say, you know what, I'm in high school, and I'm thinking about this school, and why did you choose this school? Good question to ask a student that's there. That's their lives. And I'll tell you, they're not shy. They were exactly where you are not that long ago. They'll just start talking with you. The best way to get to know whether a campus is the right fit for you is to hear the stories and to talk to those current students and ask them, are you happy here? This is a campus that cares about you. How about if you're struggling academically? How easy would it be for you to get to a teacher? Or let's say emotionally. You know what, I got to tell you, it's got to be daunting. It's like going from home in this great community to a new place, a new community. You know? What if I'm struggling emotionally or I'm feeling lonely? Are there people here who care about me? Are there formal services that will help me to get along? So even beyond that, big brother, big sisters within the residential halls, the people within the residential halls that care about me. Good questions to ask. I think the best way to get to know whether a college campus is the best fit for you is to go there and to talk to the students.
Yeah, so, I mean, when you're looking at fit in the 3 subjects that were given academically, you want to see if they have the majors that you're interested in. Keep in mind, most students coming with a major end up switching it. So you want to see if they have a variety of majors. You know, if you're undecided, exploratory studies, you know, what services they have to help you select the major. I always say it's fine to come in undecided, and that's typically the largest program I see students applying as an incoming freshman. But don't just wait the 2 years. You know, be assertive in regards to trying to find what the right major is for you so you can take advantage of all those opportunities available for you within your 4 years of college. You know, when you look at socially, you know, what clubs and activities do they have on campus? You know, we mentioned sports earlier, if that's something that you're interested in. So, you know, what's the social life within the institution? Because college is, yes, academics, but also it's that social development, that independence that you're going to strive for. And then in regards to personally, you know, are you looking to go to a big school, a small school? You know, what is your price range when you're looking at an institution as well, too, in regards to scholarships and financial aid? Or if, you know, you need some support services to be successful, is that institution going to provide that for you?
I really love this question because I've been working in higher ed for a long time now. I've seen it from a lot of different spaces. And there's an F word in college admissions. And it's not that F word. It's another F word. And the F word is fear, right? Fear tends to be one of the dominant emotions that students and families experience as they go through the college process. Who wants to take a guess at what the biggest fear for students is when going through the college process? You just call it out. What is it? Fitting in, that's a big fear for sure. What else? Rejection, big one, definitely for sure. Anybody want to make it? They're all right answers. Affordability, for sure. I'm gonna throw another one out there for everybody. Ready? It's not getting into school, right? Actually, what the research evidence is, it's picking the wrong school, right? So this is why I love the question about fit, right? Obviously, going for a campus visit is a great way to experience a campus culture and see if you fit in all these different ways. But before you do that visit, here's something I would challenge the student and even the family, because the family, you may not be driving the bus, but you're a passenger. You're on the ride with the student, right? Start to draw out a list of what your priorities are, right? Because how could you find your fit if you don't know what your fit is, right? So just draw up some lists. You know, I've worked with families, thousands, tens of thousands of families over the past 15 plus years. I was a high school counselor before I came to the dark side over here in admissions, right? So some people, their fit is the cheapest school. Done. That's it. That's the fit. Other people's fits, I've had parents come into my office say, you know, Ryan, my kid could go to any school within this radius. That's fit. Anywhere within 3 hours is fit for me, right? Other families are well, I want engineering in Ivy. Well, okay, that's definitely a different kind of list. So what is important to you and your student? Now, I don't expect the students to know the answer to the question because they're exploring the answer themselves. Many students are in love with the idea of institutions, right? Not the institutions themselves. Challenge your student to do visits. TikTok is actually not terrible for college search. We advertise there so they can find a college there. But get the student to visit campuses because that will drive, they're going to thumbs up, thumbs down, just like in TikTok or any other algorithm that's out there. They're going to continue to say, I really like this, or no, I don't. You know, sometimes they don't remember, they don't know that NYU is actually in the middle of an open urban center campus, right? It's just really fabulous on TV, but it's very different in person. So visiting campuses is great. I would challenge students, draw up a list of your priorities, expect them to change, right? I wanted to go to Ohio State, and then I visited for 10 minutes, and was like, nope, not for me. Expect it to change, but at least draw up a preliminary list about what are the important things driving the bus for the student. And parents, if you can come up with a list for yourself or for the family as far as expectations are concerned, I would say you're doing yourself a great service as well.
So similar to what all my colleagues said, I do want to highlight that, college visits are extremely important. We have our open house coming up, April 26th. I welcome all of you guys to come. It's in Valhalla, the main campus. It is a wonderful way for you guys to get to know your campus, but I personally counsel hundreds of families every single year. And what I find very, very useful and helpful is for you to actually sit down and take a look, like my colleague said, do we offer the right programs for you? Is it an opportunity available for you to, do some work experience, some field work? Some of our programs are extremely hands-on. Some of our students, and I highly recommend a lot of students to come and take a class with us. You do this at a high school level, right? So if your counselors can approve it, come with us, come to our campus, take a class with us. It could be online, it could be in person. That's how you know that it's gonna be a right fit for you, right? Because you're gonna meet faculty, you're gonna come on campus, you're gonna have, friends or family members or anyone there to support you through that process. So I highly encourage every single high schooler to take at least one college level course. I find that incredibly helpful for you to transition to college. So that's my personal advice. That's one thing I always tell students. It helps eliminate all this fear, right? The fear of maybe not doing well or not getting in or not having the right support services. So again, my number one thing when you're looking at institutions in general is to really see if the location is good for you, obviously, if the return on investment. College is one of the biggest investments you're gonna make, and you wanna make sure that you know the total cost of attendance. That's very, very important. But like all my colleagues highlighted, really, you need to see, you know yourselves the best, right? You know your children the best, and you have to really see which university is gonna support them.
Thank you very much. Our next question is focusing on what juniors should prioritize during the college search process. What do you think they should prioritize as they're doing their search?
That's a great question. And, I got to tell you, I think the ones that really come in organized, juniors, a year from now, it's going to be serious. I'm working with seniors right now that are thinking, I have to make a decision real fast. So being organized is going to be part of prioritizing and keeping yourself on task. We talked about how important that college visit is, of course. Now, about asking the right questions are, of course. Almost get yourself a little notebook and journal. You just jot down your thoughts, And it's so much different. What did it feel like when I walked on campus? Was it too big? Did it have that energy that I was looking for? Maybe not. Our websites are all very good. Our brochures are fantastic, but it's not real. It's not real. What's real is, what did it feel like when I walked on that campus? So you'll go there, jot down your thoughts, go to another campus, jot down your thoughts. So my colleagues have already said it. Really expand your horizons and say, there's a small school, there's a big one. What was that like? And then in October or so, when it's time to start filling out your college applications, you'll go back to that information. You'll go back to that notebook and go back to that journal, and you won't be confused. You'll say, oh, that's exactly right. I remember that. I do want to apply to that school. So that's a different experience. Those that are successful now, that I counsel with now, those seniors, and I got to tell you, it's so exciting for us to see this. We've done this for a long time, and to see juniors go, what is this like? It feels big and daunting, and give me information. Good information is going to help you make a good decision. And then we work with seniors, and May 1st is our national deposit deadline. They're like, I got this. This is exactly what I want to do. And in the end, we got to get it right. And we got to get it right together. And that's what tonight's all about.
I say, when you're starting the college search process, one piece of advice I have is start off with self-reflection. Take a look at your past 3 years you had in high school. How are you as a student? What are your grades? Did you challenge yourself? So you can start trying to match yourself up with those colleges or universities. Think about what environment you're going to thrive in. Do you thrive in a large lecture hall like we're in right now? or are you going to thrive in that small class size? Some people love home. Some people are looking to go far away from home. If you're looking to go far away, are you looking to go 4 hours away or across the country? I mean, now students could study internationally as well, too, for college. You know, so think about what's going to match up to make your best fit and where you're going to thrive, where you're going to make it to that next level. Academically, but also socially, because that's a big part of the college experience, where you develop those leadership skills. So I say it starts with self-reflection, where you could just line up all these next steps.
So I know before I said start with self-reflection, and I love it, Louis. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful place to start. But also sometimes I feel people are so fearful, they just don't throw themselves into it. So I'm all about the college visit. Like, throw yourself into it, you know. If you're not having fun, pretend to do it. You might have a little bit by accident, you know. So if you're taking a cruise out of Miami, swing by Miami, do a visit there. If you're in New York, go to NYU. If you're in Boston, visit a billion schools that are in Boston. Visit as many campuses as possible, because the art of college search is making a very big list small as quickly and as efficiently as possible, right? And just like the Netflix algorithm I was talking about a moment ago, the more times your student steps on a campus, the more refined their questions are going to become. The better the questions are going to become, the more they step foot on campus, because they're going to see things, and they're going to be like, I like this, I don't like that. Boom, you just took 2,000 colleges off your list. Congratulations, right? It's a really great way to go through the process by visiting colleges. I generally say, academically speaking, you don't always have to make that the pinnacle of the college search. Here's why. I'll do a quick demonstration because I love audience participation. Ready? If you are a parent in the room that is doing currently what you thought you'd be doing at 17 years old, raise your hand. Okie dokes. So we're not going to put academics at the top of the list, right? There are a few students I work with that work in the quote-unquote calling professions, right? My nurses, maybe a couple doctors. I have a couple kids that could argue like heck, and they've been, they're always going to be a lawyer, right? But for most of us, we're just figuring it out, and it's not quite as linear as we imagined it to be. So academics certainly should be part of the conversation, but it doesn't always have to be the be-all, end-all. Most kids are like, I think I want to be an accountant, but do they really? Do they really know what accountants do? Do they really know the variety of things accountants could do in the space, right? From big four to small and everything in between, right? So my point is, academics doesn't always have to be at the forefront, although it should be in the conversation if you want to be an engineer, or you want to be a nurse, or you want to be a specific thing, right? Financial aid, right? Does that have to drive the bus early in the conversation? Not necessarily, okay? Because you might exclude opportunity that you shouldn't exclude too early, right? There's some great opportunities at private schools, right? Where you could get significant financial aid, even though we have a really scary sticker price, okay? So financial aid doesn't have to be something you exclude too early, right? And even if you get to a school, right, and the financial aid is not as comprehensive as you imagined it to be, well, you can work with your school counseling office to find schools in the peer group or like schools that you would find a happy home in that might be more cost effective, right, for you and your family. So financial aid, have the conversation. For the students and families in the room right now, I want you to start talking about financial aid, at least the partners and the parents in the room to talk about financial aid, but it doesn't have to be driving the bus quite yet. And last but not least, when it comes to academic fit, right, take a look at the school profile. I usually say, look at the most recently enrolled class to that institution. Look at that academic profile, okay, absorb it in, okay, 3.6 out of 4.0 scale, blah, 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 whatever it might be, test scores, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then the student can say, am I in that range, right? Am I not in the range because I'm on the other side of an outlier over here, or am I in the range on the other side of the bell curve to the left? If you're to the left, maybe that school, even if you could be admitted, maybe that school isn't an academic fit for you, right? Certainly, you can still visit and see if maybe the community resonates with you, but that school just may not be the fit that you're looking for from an academic sense. So those are a few tools I just kind of shared with you that could hopefully kind of get you on your journey as you're starting the process.
I think everything my colleague said is really, really important, but I also like to encourage people to really when you're starting and you have 6,000 schools to pick from, and you have safety schools, and schools that you're hoping to get into and schools you might get into. I think one of the biggest things that you really need to look at, and I recommend all students to do this, is something called alumni outcomes, right? In many situations, you'll know friends or family members that have just graduated or going through the process, or neighbors. I always tell students, an alumni is your best friend at a campus that you're trying to go to, right? I highly recommend everyone speak to alumni. I also recommend reach out to the admissions office and speak to student ambassadors. As we mentioned, all of our colleagues, student ambassadors are doing the tours, right? And yes, they can give you questions to your answers, but they often will just meet with you, right? You don't have to come on site necessarily. You don't have to give a tour or come to a tour if you can't make it. Student ambassadors and alumni, that is something that I highly recommend everyone reach out to.
Thank you very much. Just to circle back to demonstrated interest real quick, it's clear that the college visit is really an important way to show demonstrated interest. Would anybody want to add any other ways where a student can show demonstrated interest for your school?
We love when students connect with us. Parents are fantastic. We love you too. But when we get emails and we had that conversations with students, and you can see that energy about them, and if you think about it, if I know that student, and we got student A that is just brilliant, and they're going for a particular major, and student B that is absolutely brilliant as well, they're equal, right on. We're much more inclined to offer that spot to that student that says, you know what, if you give it to me, I'm going to take it. So demonstrated interest means I am serious. I'm very interested. So part of that very much would be to build the relationships. We talked about, of course, visiting, yes. But, just a quick email. Hey, I'll be on campus next week, Joe. You're going to be around. I'd like to interview with you. I'd like to chat with you. Boy, that little bit of an edge. I remember that. And I'm much more likely to be on a committee and lobby for that student that I know if I offered them the spot, that they would take it.
Yeah, I have to say the same. It's, you have your admissions counselors that are responsible for your territory. You'll see them when they come to visit for the high school visit. You're doing a college fair. I heard that was mentioned earlier. You'll meet the admissions counselor there. Or when you come on campus, ask for their card as well too. This is a human process. You want to make that connection, especially for the schools that you have a strong interest in. Because as mentioned, you want that admissions counselor there when they're in committee. And maybe you fall on that bubble. You want that admissions counselor there to fight for you because they know, hey, you know what? I had a conversation with the student. The student followed up with an email. They're interested. I see this student being a great fit for our institution. So you're trying to find a fit. The universities are also trying to find the right fit as well too. And making those connections with your admissions counselor, that starts the process there.
I'll be super brief. I've worked at 3 schools here in the Northeast. Demonstrated interest was something we utilized in each one of my admission processes. I utilized it at Iona. When it comes to demonstrated interest, you can simply ask the school if we measure it. There's a lot of my colleagues nationally, it does not matter. Like, you can visit, you can write them love letters, send them chocolates, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, to them, it does not matter. To other schools, it does matter. Okay, and you can simply ask when you go for an information session, hey, do you take demonstrated interest into account? They're going to nod their head yes, or shake their head no, and you'll have the ability to make an informed decision. One thing I do need to share, though, is early decision and application plan, which is binding. It's kind of like a marriage between a student and a school. If they say yes, everybody says yes, they get married and go to school together. It's beautiful. And about demonstrated interests, highest form is actually ED contracts, or going ED to a school, because pretty much you're saying to an institution, I shall forsake everybody else in the world here if you say yes to me. So even if a school does not take demonstrated interest, which there are a number of us out there who do not, but if they do have an ED plan, let me tell you something, they have a wink-wink hidden form of demonstrated interest for you to exercise if that's something that you are interested in doing. Talk to your school counselors.
Yeah, I did all that because we don't look at demonstrated interest at all. I've worked in CUNYs, SUNYs, UK schools, directors of medical schools, and Some schools do, and some schools don't, right? And they measure it differently, right? They'll even tell you, oh, have you come on campus? Have you met with a counselor? So again, if it's an important school and a school that you're really looking into, simply just, ask. Again, at SUNY Westchester, we don't need that. The only thing you need is a high school diploma. That's it.
All right, thank you. Moving on, this is a good one. What qualities or characteristics make an applicant stand out in your admissions process?
I think we're all going to have different answers, just like we just had a different answer to that question right there. We'll all have kind of our own take on this because we're all different. Binghamton is approaching 60,000 applications this year for about 3,000 spots. We want to get it right together. We want to make sure that student stays. The word is retention, and it was said earlier today. And my sense of making sure you stand out means, would you be the right fit for us? Academically, does your transcript reflect who we're looking for in that particular program? Holistically, when we're reading an application, it all matters. It all matters. We're going to read the college essay. Are we making a good fit? What stands out in that essay to us? How about that letter of recommendation? Now, Binghamton just needs one because a lot of applications are coming in. But each one of us are going to have our own answer to that question. Holistically, when we read an application, it's all about retention. So are we making the right fit and the right choice together? And that's all sort of spelled out in that application. AP classes in total. But your counselors here are fantastic. They're really going to guide you to, would you also be the right fit for that school?
Yeah, I mean, I've been at 4 different colleges and universities. When we get together and we're reviewing applications and we get to committee, typically in my experience, it starts with the GPA. So you know what you're working with. You know where the student is academically. You're taking a look at the strength of curriculum. You're taking a look at the trends as well too academically. So I think that's the one thing most admissions committees start with.
Okay?
Yep.
Cool. GPA for sure. GPA gets you to the table. Everything else you submit with your application ultimately drives the bus for the conversation and proceeds, right? I'm going to talk from a high altitude here, folks. If you want an insight into what we're looking for from each college, because we're all looking for something different, right? We're building a personal relationship with an individual and a family. Take a look at our identity, who we are. What is our mission as an institution, right? What does the mission statement say? What does the homepage say? What are the students saying, right? What are they saying? What's important to them? What are they evidencing on what's important to them through their marketing efforts, right? Those are really important things that signal the important things that officers in admissions tend to look for, okay? Because we're all looking for good grades, right? Most of us are looking for students who are going to be successful. Most of us are looking for students with character. Most of us are looking for students who do service and have leadership, right? But there's a lot of different ways we can kind of slice that and think about, well, how does a student engage in a classroom? How do they engage with a roommate? Who is the student on campus? We're asking ourselves those questions through the admissions process. But I think, looking at our missions is a really easy way to understand what we might, at my institution, be looking for specifically. And also taking a look at our profile is a really great way to do it. Those are typically the things. I'm speaking really from a high altitude, but I hope it gives you some sense of the variety of answers you'll get out here.
Like my colleagues just mentioned, every single school, every single institution is going to be different. At SUNY Westchester, we have something called open admissions. That means that every single student that applies to our university will get an admissions letter, will get admitted. And a lot of parents are like, whoa, wait, hold on, what does that mean? It's easy to get into, but I tell parents it's hard to get out of. That means you're never going to make it past certain levels. We don't require standardized tests. We don't require references. We don't require essays. We are a very simple, straightforward application. I always recommend to every single student, apply to SUNY Westchester. We're really, really close. It's a great safety school. The only thing you need is a high school diploma, and you'll get admitted, and you guys can get started. Again, we don't consider GPAs. We don't consider anything other than the fact that you have a high school diploma. And that pretty much lets you have a reset, right? A lot of students come to us, and they're like, well, what about my GPA? And I'm like, we're not concerned about that. You're going to start over. Okay?
If I can give you a really quick, real example, these things change year to year, right? So like my senior vice president, he's in St. Louis, knows him too. He'll walk into my office and be like, Ryan, we need more bagpipers this year, right? And I'm like, yes, sir, right? Like, I understand the assignment. I'm going to find some bagpipers. That's a very literal example of how this can operate. Even at larger schools, the boss or the board might direct the admissions office. Remember, I'm a servant of the institution. They might direct me to find more students from this geography. I might need more students in-state versus out-of-state. I might need more students out-of-state versus in-state for tuition, right? So there's a lot of things that go into what might make a student stand out. One thing I didn't add before is you can simply ask, right? Like, we're not trying to kind of be smoke and mirrors here in college admissions. If you're interested in an institution, you can simply say, what really makes a student stand out to you at blank school? And they're going to give you a response that I think you should really kind of take to heart.
That's great, thank you. To piggyback from that, we've been talking like how to evaluate a student holistically. Is there anything you want to add in terms of how you consider the extracurricular activities or leadership roles in the admissions process? What would you look for on that realm, just to piggyback from some of the other items?
Yeah, and I think we're all going to have a different take on this as well, but it doesn't have to be a litany of all these lists of things that I've done and accomplished. That's not real. I think we learned a lot of that during COVID. The world changed, it came back, and it's not about a list of things. There wasn't a lot of things we couldn't do. But how did you take an idea or a project and develop it and become who you want to become? Those are well reflected in the college essays. We've read many through our years of college essays, and I love them. Those are, let me hear your story. Who are you? What's important to you? And again, in the end, we're about making the right decision and making the right fit. You're more than just a transcript. You're more than just a GPA or an AP score or an essay. You're not a number. We know who you are. We're in the business of people. And the reality is we want to get it right. So talking about what you might have developed, and because of that, here's who I want to become. In the context of your college essay, are great stories. Those are great stories. And think about it. When you're in college, you're going to want to do a lot of great things, and I hope you do. So we look at that. What did they do in high school? Did they do some great, fun, exciting things? Or did they get good grades when they were doing that? Then we look at that in the college essay and we go, does it look like that's someone who's going to be involved and part of our community and our culture? And will they get good grades? So those matches from high school to college, that transition, that application is it's like a book to us.
Yeah, when we look at applications holistically, at WCSU, we take it as we're looking at every part that you submit to us from the application, to give us the full scope and view. So let's say a student, applies and maybe they didn't have such a good freshman year. We're looking to see, do they have a personal statement explaining what occurred that year? So it's taking each part of the application so we have a full view before we make that decision for the student.
Ditto.
As I mentioned earlier, the only thing you need is a high school diploma, so we don't really look at you holistically. But again, in general, just some advice that I would like to give is, I always ask admissions folks, right, when I'm meeting with someone and saying, hey, if you do a holistic application, what do you think would be more important, right? Because again, just like you guys are looking for the right college, colleges are also looking for the right students, right, that are going to be successful and thrive, right? And you want to make sure that those are aligned. The mission, the vision, those are aligned. That's a big recommendation that I have. Take a look at the college's mission, vision, and see if those are aligned.
Okay. Are there any common mistakes students make on their application that they should avoid?
The essays matter. Spelling matters, and grammatically it's got to make sense, so that's a common thing. I think right now, as I'm working with seniors, the disappointment comes in when they're not checking their emails. That's a mistake. Make sure we're communicating well with each other. And parents, thanks for helping, but really it's got to be from the students. Just nothing more disappointing than sending an incomplete student's application, an email, a conversation. Hey, I need you to send me this, and then you send it again. You send it a few more times, and they don't respond. They're not checking their emails. So one of the mistakes you could make is to shut down communication and just not check your emails. That simple.
One that's a pet peeve is if you're applying to our institution and you call us a different name. Were you going to say that?
It's top of my list.
All right.
Okay, don't put a P in Binghamton. There's no P in Binghamton. It's just Binghamton.
That's just attention to detail. But also, just following the guidelines, meeting the deadlines, knowing the programs that you're applying for, so you can apply, as mentioned earlier, early decision, early action, regular decision. There's rolling admissions as well, too, so knowing the differences between those programs when applying.
Folks, you would be shocked how many students apply to the wrong school. Like, they're like, I can't wait to study in Florida at Iona University. It is amazing. 3 schools, 15 years, happens hundreds of times per year. Kids, folks, for the love of God, please read your essays, read your statements, okay? Leads me to the next thing. Don't complete an application on a phone. Just don't. It's a terrible idea. It never works out well for anybody. The application is something you should do with great intention. You should sit down with intentionality to do an application. Don't do it on the fly, okay? Moreover, you want to make sure that your essays are well constructed, right? And they're done well, grammatically correct, as Joe mentioned before, but that really keep you as the main character, that you say what you want to say. This is oftentimes your moment to shine with us. And if sometimes if you can't do an interview and they don't, review letters of recommendations, this is your moment. This is your time in the sun. Make sure you say something with meaning, with weight. Make sure it's something you actually want to say to the admissions committee. I always tell my students, make sure that you're the main character of your essay. And if you're not, you did it wrong, do it again. Okay? A few other things. If a school has a supplemental essay for you to complete, it's really not a suggestion, right? If you're serious about an institution, the supplemental is really, I don't know why we call it supplemental. That's my beef with the college admissions world. We just say essay number 2. But nevertheless, if they're offering it to you and you're interested in the school, just do the essay. Don't omit it, because you could miss out on an opportunity to tell me something that I could share with my committee members to advocate for you being in my institution. Okay? So those are just a few things. Last but not least, when you're filling out the Common App itself, I'm assuming you're going to complete the Common App. Nearly everybody takes it these days, right? When you're filling out the application, make sure you put contact information that's relevant for you and your family, okay? So if you have a landline in your house, I don't know if anybody does anymore, but if you do, right, and you have like a wired connection, I don't even know what those look like anymore, but nevertheless, if you have a wired connection, make sure you check the voicemail, right? If you put an email down, make sure you put an email down that you check regularly, right? Here's a little helpful hint for everybody in the room. You should make an email just for your college search, right? Big helpful hint right there. I just gave you guys gold, right? It's going to do 2 things. 1, mom, dad, student, we're all going to be on the same page, right? You get one of those public domains, Gmail, could be whatever everybody's using these days, right? And you use that specifically for college search. And for mom and dad, you always know what's going on, right? However, you also keep your inbox clear of all the clutter that we send, and we send a lot, right? So that would be, the advice as far as the college application is concerned.
Our application is not on the Common App, and we're actually not on the SUNY application either. You have to apply directly with us. We are happy to waive everyone's application fee, so just send us an email. If you'd like a fee waiver, we're happy to do that for all MAOPAC students. We do it every year. We have application day. But just in case you don't make it to application day, just shoot us an email and we'll be happy to waive the application. So you do have to apply directly to us. Again, same thing as my colleagues mentioned. We do get, we want students to pay attention to their emails, right? They'll call us and say, well, I didn't get my admissions letter. I'm like, did you check your email? So just make sure you guys are checking emails, staying on top of it. It is the quickest, fastest way we get in touch with you. So again, very, very important to stay on top of the emails.
Thank you. How does your college or your institution approach test optional admissions?
So we're test optional. We weren't prior to COVID. But ask the question. And again, I think we'd mentioned it earlier in one of the slides that please take it. Please take the SATs or take the ACTs. The reality is it can only help you. It can't hurt you. If it's optional, you can submit it or not. As a matter of fact, do it a couple of times. We super score. Each one of us is going to be different on that answer, but we do. Meaning, the composite score of the best you might have done in math on that day that you took the test versus the writing component on another day. You'll take both those. That'll be your composites. We call it a super score. And all that can do is add to the value of your application, strengthen your application. So, anything else?
Yeah, we've been test optional for about 10 years. When I first came to WCSU, one thing that really has changed over these past 6 years is 70% of the students who applied with their tests. Now it's about 20%. So more and more students are applying test optional. We really saw this accelerate during the COVID time as well too. If a student applies with the test scores, it's a piece that we use. If they do not, then we don't have that to evaluate. Students have the same opportunity for admissions. Students have the same opportunity for scholarships as well too, with the exception of one scholarship, which is our presidential scholarship, which is a full ride scholarship. For that scholarship, SATs are required since it's covering full tuition and fees.
A couple things about test optional. Every student should try the best and forget the rest. Every student should have some testing they've completed. ACT, SAT, doesn't really matter, either or these days. Iona, we are test optional. We went test optional in 2019. You missed the bullet. Everybody else went test optional. But really, let's put it in context of the landscape. The landscape of higher ed changes rapidly. It's like a big pendulum. We went really strong in the test optional. Now you're starting to hear a lot of the R1s and some of the most selective schools say, we want test scores back. Major state flagships, I'm looking at you, right? Some academic programs, they're bringing back the SAT. So you might start to see the return of it. And some of those policies that were put into play back a few years ago start to expire. So I share this with you now because schools that are test optional this year may not be test optional next year. So what you should do is you should check the school's website for information or connect directly with the school or the school counseling office or the counselor at that school you're interested in and say, what is your testing policy going to be for 25-26, right? To give you some insight on what to expect because it might change or it may not change or it can change slightly. They might say, well, we're going to be test optional for everybody except for nursing, engineering, and presidential scholars or something of that tune, right? But I just want you all to make informed decisions. Every student should take a test, if not twice, so you have something in your back pocket should you ever need it as you go through the process.
I was actually exactly going to say that. So even though SUNY Westchester does not require any tests at all, I always recommend students to take a test just to go through it. And exactly what Ryan said is there is a big change happening in college admissions, and by the time you guys are enrolling, it could change. So just keep an eye. It might be test optional this year, but again, next year it might change. We at SUNY Westchester, I mentioned, do not require tests. You are welcome to submit tests with us so you can get waived from certain classes like English 101 and math. So depending on what tests you do submit, you have the option to waive out of certain classes because every single student that comes into SUNY Westchester, it takes a placement test because, again, we don't require standardized tests. So the way that we're able to place everyone is by giving you a placement exam. And we don't recommend that you study for that. That's to place you in the correct English, writing, and math, okay? So again, even though we do not require tests, I highly recommend for every student to, sit through an exam. It is helpful.
Okay, I think we probably have time maybe for one last question. Somebody mentioned a little bit about financial aid and how sometimes you need SATs. Is there anything that our family should know about financial aid when starting the college search process?
Well, I did it with both of my sons. It was a little different back then. It was a few years ago. And it's changed over, the Common App's changed quite a bit over the past couple of years. The reality is, the FAFSA has changed over the years. Fill out the FAFSA, you should do it, regardless. You're saying, I'm not going to qualify, I'm not quite sure. It impacts many other things. Do it, bring out the taxes, sit down with your children, and just get it done, because the reality is it could impact whether you're going to do scholarships or grants. So please just take your time and fill out that FAFSA.
Yeah, there's different forms of financial aid. So there are your merit scholarships that you earn on your high school GPA, performance, SATs, if that's something that's considered. So that's one piece that you're gaining. But then there is the needs-based financial aid as well, too, that's based on the family income. So, those are two different forms that you have. I think it's important to be mindful of deadlines. Some schools may have deadlines for scholarships, for the merit scholarships. When are universities, colleges and universities releasing financial aid packages as well too? So you want to see the full package, what you get, what you earned, merit-wise, what you received, needs-based, before you make that final decision, typically around that May 1st day.
If I want to get a parent freaked out, I start talking about financial aid, right? So every parent in the room right now, they're like, oh my God, Ryan, I can't wait to get out of here to have like a cocktail or something, right? A glass of wine. All right, so folks, I'll try to break it down as easy as possible. Let's start from the very beginning. There's something that every college publishes called the net price calculator. We call it an NPC. You can Google it. Google is your friend here. You can Google NPC, Harvard University. Boom, it's going to give you the net price calculator for what you could pay at said school. You can do that for any school across the nation, any school up here, any school that you can imagine in the U.S. you can do that for. It's going to give you your best kind of shot in the dark of what you could pay at that institution. Now, that's just a starting off point, right? It's a place to start the conversation. You know, you and your spouse could say, hey, have I ever thought about spending 10 grand a year for school, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 100, doesn't really matter what the number is, it's arbitrary. It's about, are you prepared for that amount, right? Second place to start with, just to kind of add on what Lewis was sharing, you know, there's several different there's several different types of aid. My God, I couldn't even say that. Types of aid, long day. You have your merit-based aid. Most schools have merit-based aid, right? They tend to be a very large scholarship based on your high school performance. You can ask a school if they have merit-based aid. Not everybody does, right? So when you're in the info session, you can raise your hand and be like, excuse me, do you have merit-based aid? Person presenting to be like, oh my God, this person's so smart. I can't believe they asked me about merit-based aid. They're going to shake their head yes or say no, right? There's participatory aid, right? So what certain things you do within the community could qualify you for aid. Here, I'll give you a really fun example. NCAA athletic scholarships is that type of aid. You also have aid like that for community service or performing arts or a million other things, academic programming. Sometimes if you're coming from like a Catholic school, going to a Catholic school, there's aid for it, right? There's lots of different aid types. Usually you can do that research on a financial aid website. Third type, need-based aid, right? You're going to evidence that from the FAFSA. We've talked about that at length. There's also another form called the CSS profile. Folks, it's like a less fun version of the FAFSA. Don't worry, I'm not going to bog you down with the details tonight. That'll be for another night. But those are three main types of aid. You can ask schools if they're a CSS profile school. You can ask schools if they have merit-based aid, if they have participatory aid or aid based on certain qualifying statuses. You can ask them what they have available. But folks, the one thing I would tell you to do and take away is to go to that school's website, find the NPC, and do a calculation and have a conversation as a family about the feasibility of whatever that school costs, right? Because it might be less than you think it is, or it could actually be a little bit more than what you're imagining it to be. Or spot on. It's a fun game. You guys can play over-under. That's what I do in my spare time.
So just like my colleagues mentioned, I highly encourage every single student and family member to apply for financial aid because it is not what it sounds like. It is not because you have a financial need that you will qualify for financial aid. There's scholarships that are allocated based on your financial. FAFSA is a form that you need to fill out so colleges can see how we can allocate funding to you. We at SUNY Westchester, we have $3 million in funding, automatic scholarships that you do not have to apply to, and we cannot make you eligible unless we have your FAFSA, okay? So I encourage every single person in here, regardless of what you make financially, to apply for financial aid, FAFSA the form, because again, it is the only way that we can allocate these funds. Like my colleague said, it doesn't have to be financial need. It doesn't have to be merit-based. We have scholarships, and if you guys take a look at our automatic scholarships on our website, for everything, whether you want to study business, whether you want to study nursing, whether you're a first-generation immigrant, whether everything, you know, cultural associations, you know, everything. So I highly, highly, highly recommend everyone here apply for financial aid.
Thank you. I really appreciate the thoughtful responses from each of you and your different perspectives, and hopefully the questions we asked were some of your top questions to begin with, and now you may have other questions. So I definitely want to open the floor to our parents for either for our counselors or our reps. Please go ahead.
If you want the benefit of financial aid, yeah.
Okay, and my second question is, how do you feel with like kids who are now taking like college classes, like whatever they're taking at world, computer classes, like how accepting are you of these college?
Oh, we love them at Binghamton, and we're all going to have a different take on that. You know, Yeah, I mean, AP classes, a 3 or better on that test exam, that comes over as college credits.
Concurrent enrollment classes
Of course.
in partnerships with, yeah.
Westchester. Sure, we do that. We love that. A C or better on that class, that comes over as college credits. That strengthens your application. And by the way, those are fewer credits you've got to pay for or deal with. You know, it may not dismiss you out of a prerequisite class within the major, but it'll apply toward an elective. So please, if you got the opportunity, that's fantastic. Yeah.
One thing I want to say in regards to those college courses or AP courses that students are taking, you know, one thing that we deal with every summer is we have our enrolled students that don't submit them. And we're chasing them down, submit your AP scores, submit your college scores, because we're, you know, the university advisor is making their schedule there. And I'm guaranteed I have at least 5 students that bring those scores sophomore year. And going back to your point earlier, open up the emails. We're emailing you so you can send that in.
Just to the question about coursework coming in, many schools will accept AP credits, IB credits, dual enrollment credits for credit-bearing institutions. Here's a rule of thumb I've learned in my time in higher ed. Students never actually receive as much as they think they're going to receive, right? So you can check our school's websites, right? And check out usually it's on the advising page or maybe on the registrar's page, someplace it depends on how they kind of divvy that up, and just learn what would qualify for specific coursework. And sometimes that varies by program. You know, even if you took AP Bio, but you're a nursing student, congratulations, kiddo. You're going to take my bio course with everybody else because you got to learn my lab equipment, and if you don't, you're lost, right? So it really, there's some flexibility there. And these days, when it comes to the kind of pendulum, if you will, a lot of schools are starting to kind of wean back off of the dual enrollment credit train that was so hot maybe like 5 years ago. So I would usually encourage students to take those courses here because it can help you from an admission standpoint, and sometimes it helps students in the long run when it comes to 4 years of coursework at the institution.
We do what's called an articulation, and you'll sit down during orientation generally. You sit down with an academic advisor and you see how does it apply, and they'll make sure you
Any other questions from our audience here? Go ahead.
We do weighted, but tag you're it, so I'm not sure what you guys do.
We look at weighted.
Just a question for the room, weighted GPA versus published GPA. So the answer is yes. Private school, yeah. We recalculate, right? So we're going to take, I'm going to try and make this succinct. I serve a lot of students across the globe, 4 scales, 5 scales, 100-point scales. Some schools don't even grade their kids. Let that go through Noodle for a little while, right? So what I do is I'm going to deconstruct the transcript, and then I'm going to recalculate it on my own scale in an attempt to level out the playing field. So that's usually what many schools do, not all of us, and that could change by year. So as a student is shopping, I would say have them shop by their unweighted GPA, right? Because there's no kind of, nothing kind of fluffing it up a little bit, and I think that would give them the clearest picture of how they could prove through the admissions process. I hope that makes sense.
Thank you. Other questions? Go ahead.
When's the best time to do a campus tour or an open house?
All the above.
The reason I'm asking is because, I mean, obviously over the summer,
Yeah.
you know, it's the most convenient time to do it, but I can't imagine too many students, but you offer it during the weeks.
Yeah, and our websites are going to.
Weekends, Saturdays.
Yeah, our website are going to say that, but you're absolutely right. Do it while the students are there. You know, during a winter break or summertime, the vibe is just different. Doing it when they're coming out of class. My favorite time of the day is during classroom dismissal time, and you see literally hundreds of students going from building to building, and it's chaos. But you get a sense of what does that population look like, and what does it sound like? Listen to the languages, and you'll catch the vibe much better when you see that sort of class dismissal on a campus. Yeah.
But I always say to my families, like, don't not visit just because it is summer. If summer is the only time you can go because it's convenient for you and your family, just go during the summer. If you really like it, let me tell you, they'll take you back for another visit, right? But maybe that summer visit is just enough to help your students say, this is the worst visit ever, right? And then you can strike that school off the list, and guess what? You can strike another 100 schools off the list that are peer schools or similar schools in that set. So I'm of the kind of philosophy of just go whenever it works for you, and if you really like it, go back.
You know, and if you're visiting, I often see families will try to do 2 to 3 schools a day. which is fine if you're trying to get that in. If you do that, take notes and take pictures. Just because after your third one, they all start kind of blending in. So those notes and pictures will help during those campus visits.
Go ahead in the back.
Yeah. Well, say hello when you come by. Well, I would do this, honestly, both. Come and take a tour, of course. Come see and walk around and see, oh, I get it. But I'm telling you, as a matter of fact, it's so fun to watch this. I love this. You know, in the fall, the energy is different. You know, these are prospective students. Should I apply? And the seniors are just full of energy, and it's daunting and new and cool, right? Now, in April, the paradigm is going to shift for seniors. Seniors would have been admitted by spring. Seniors would have been admitted to a school by spring. Now the paradigm shifts. I've been admitted here, but if you've been admitted to Binghamton, you've been admitted to a lot of great places. Impress me. Give me a deeper experience. Let me talk to faculty. Let me see the labs. Let me go into some of the residential halls and talk to the students and see how they live. The experience just changes and shifts through the cycle, right? Now as a junior, just go and tour and say, oh, I get it. That's what a tour is. And then in the fall of your senior year, come back to Binghamton, or all of us, and say, oh, that's what an open house looks like, and I get it. And then if you're admitted, I hope you are, come back in the spring and go, oh, that's what an admitted student experience looks like. These are all just, and then you'll have orientation. It's a whole cool thing. But right message, right audience, right time, and there's a parent session. Enjoy them all. I don't know if you guys want to add to that at all.
I think you hit it.
One thing I'll share, we talk a lot about visiting, and I understand your student may not be looking at schools that are within a couple hours of your house. If you're interested in, say, like a large state flagship school, we'll say a Big Ten school, right? Well, find a Big Ten school that's a little bit more local to where we are and visit that, right? Or if you want to visit a state flagship, drive up to UConn and like visit UConn or try Rutgers on for size. Even though the culture is different on all those schools I just mentioned, they also have more similarities than dissimilarities, at least in the execution of campus programming, delivery of curriculum, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So if a student who's like, I want to go to Ohio State, but then they swing by Penn State, and they're like, Penn State's horrible. I don't like the size of those classrooms. Well, let me tell you something. They're probably not going to like Ohio State either. So you can also look for some more localized options for some schools that you're looking for that could really help guide the conversation as well.
Yeah, and it is interesting. I mean, if you go to Rutgers, you'll see, well, that looks different than Penn State, than Binghamton. That's a closed campus. Some of them are spread out. So those flagships will give you a whole different bit of experiences. Or maybe a school that's within a city limits, that's a whole different experience as well. So visit, that's what we're saying.
Go ahead.
No, we don't. Do you want to add to that?
I was actually curious about that. How do you guys look at, so the question was, if you're transferring in classes, does it look different when you're transferring in classes as a senior compared to as a freshman in college? So that was actually a question I personally had for the panel. Like, is it, because we don't look at that, it doesn't matter for us, but in general, I've had students who come take classes at SUNY WCC early, and they're like, well, I don't want to be considered a transfer student.
No.
I want to be considered a freshman.
Yeah.
Is this going to impact me?
That's a great question, and I got to tell you, we are grateful for community colleges. We love our community colleges. Again, 30% of the students at Binghamton, 30% are transfer students, that they would have gone to a community college for a year or two and then transferred into a state university like Binghamton or so on. We love transfer students. However, if you're in school, in high school, and you haven't graduated from high school yet, and you're taking college level credits, you're not a transfer student. You'll still be qualified as a first-year student bringing in college level credits. The transfer piece comes in post-high school graduation. So if you went to graduate high school, and then you went to Westchester, and you took classes there, and then you enrolled there, and you transferred to Binghamton, that's called a transfer student. Is that the question you have? Yeah.
So I just want to highlight also, we actually, all of our SUNY WCC students transfer to all of these institutions. So it is a great opportunity for you guys to get started and then transfer into any one of these amazing universities.
Mm-hmm.
was a great question. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, you guys deal with a lot of things. So, I have twins. They're both in college. I've always got them separate. They're welcome to their own person. What is your experience on families or twins in particular? Do they go to the same school? Or do they separate? And what's the advantage? Like, Bye Bye Baby used to get 10% discount.
Keep it easy. I'll keep it easy. Come to Iona. We have a discount. I love twins, triplets. But truly, there's a lot of different ways to look at it, right? And it's never easy, and there's no one answer. I've worked with families with triplets, and I've had all 3 students come to my school, and sometimes 2, and then another one go. It goes as many ways as you possibly can imagine. There is an opportunity for a financial benefit. At many schools, you can ask the financial aid office if there's a sibling discount. You'll see that most specifically at private schools, and there is. The FAFSA no longer considers siblings enrolled at the same time to help you receive additional aid and split your SAI. Right. So you're not going to get a helping hand from Uncle Sam. I didn't mean the rhyme there, but nevertheless, it worked. But you can ask the schools how it possibly could help. From your side, having a singular drop-off and a singular institution to learn and be immersed in culture-wise is a great advantage. Most of my families with multiples love that about my school. Currently, in all the previous schools I've served, they really are like, they're like, Ryan, I got one drop-off. Like my older kid now just like rolls out of the car, they're off. That's a great benefit to families when they're not dropping one in Florida, one in California, etc. There's no right answer. It's best to ask everybody, really.
Yeah. I mean, at WCSU, unfortunately, we don't offer a discount.
Come to Iona.
But we do offer New York residents in-state tuition. So it's very affordable tuition for students. But yeah, I think Ryan really hit it. It's a family decision. We've seen, in my experience, I've seen twins, triplets go to the same school, and twins, triplets just go to 3 different schools or 2 different schools. Yeah, but we don't got the discount, but we got the in-state tuition.
Big deal.
I think we have time for one more question, maybe. Go ahead.
You're the veteran.
Perfect. Scholarship to your last one. Thank you.
Thank you. That was really nice.
That's a first at a panel, so thank you, folks.
Okay. Any last question before we go on? I know that was more of a plug for Iona. Over here, go ahead.
So not every school does that. That's a good question to ask. We do not offer early decisions, but we do early action. You want to do that?
Yeah, so I'll talk from a very high altitude, just to give you an idea of the landscape. The question just for the room is differential. I want to make sure I got it right. So differential in aid between admission decision plans, right? Early decision, early action, et cetera. So at Iona, we do not. Many schools do not have differential aid policies for different admit types. Some schools do, right? So some schools will say, hey, you applied ED, you knew what the full rate of school is, we're going to reduce your tuition discount, which is our code word for scholarship, right? Because we know we got you. So there's a lot of variability out there. Expect that to change because how schools leverage, I'm going down a rabbit hole, apologies. How schools leverage financial aid is responsive to the marketplace, right? So that will change on a year. I expect it to change every year for schools. You can ask schools. They may or may not be. They may not be able to disclose it to you. And if you ask like maybe your first year admissions counselor, they just may not know. frankly. Great question.
Yeah, I would say if you're considering early decision versus early action, definitely connect with the school to try to get the most information you can in regards to their policies for that. Because that's the one thing the institutions really vary on.
If you check the NPC I was talking about before, just go full circle, and you're thinking ED, and that number is like well outside of your budget, then you should have a conversation with your school counselor about you going ED, and if that's the right policy for you.
Okay. Well, I just have to thank everybody for being here tonight. You guys coming here in person, great questions, great participation. Thank you to our college admissions reps, Amina, Joseph, Lewis, and Ryan for being here. Thank you to our counselors for their thorough presentation. We are here to support you. I know our counselors told you that in the beginning, so do not hesitate to reach out. We are here every step of the way. I know our college reps will be here for a little bit if you have a quick question before you leave. And remember, we're going to send out the link to the presentation. And if you have questions as you go forward, please contact your school counselor. And we will have another presentation senior year where we do another roundtable with different reps to talk about then your application process and things to think about at that point too. So have a wonderful night, get home safe, and thank you for being here.